mixed forest here in upstate New York. This is not far from Albany, New York, where the Mohawk Valley and the Hudson Valley come together. And this is pretty typical of some of the older forests that we see in this part of the world. For one, there are some really pretty large trees, some that have attained fairly decent age, like this beauty right here. We've got a mix of eastern hemlock and sugar maple, and we've got some red oak and beech, and it's a very rich forest in terms of tree diversity. There are some things that we look for in older forests that provide conditions that you don't find in younger forests. One of the most obvious things would be big, tall trees. So some of the trees where I'm standing here on this plot are probably approaching 25 to 30 meters high, so that's really quite tall for this part of the world. We see a mix of ages, so there are of course the bigger older trees, but also plenty of younger trees that are making a go of it here, where they can find a little gap of sunlight. We see a lot of older trees that are so old that they're no longer trees. They're snags. So one of the things we look for in an older growth forest would be a lot of dead wood on the ground, or standing like this snag. On these older gnarly trees, so you can get cavities, and that provides nesting spaces, and of course opportunities for insects, but also for things like flying squirrels and screech owls and woodpeckers and things like that. Here we've got a beautiful snag where the top has broken off, and there's the rest of the tree. And big dead wood on the ground like this is really important for wildlife, for various species of wildlife. If it's hollow, it can provide den sites on the ground. But even if it's not, when it gets sort of soft like this, sort of punky, we say, this is really wonderful for insects to come in and take residence in this rotting wood. And that means that's a tremendous food source for woodpeckers, for example. Also creates cool, moist microclimates. When it gets dry in these woods, it'll be a little bit more moist under the logs, and that's of course where a lot of invertebrates, salamanders, frogs are hanging out to sort of weather the dry periods. Now, one thing a lot of people will see when you look in a woodlot like this is there's not much growing right here on the forest floor. It's a densely packed leaf litter over most of the area. And this can be indicative of a problem in a lot of areas. It could mean that we've got a really high deer population, and we're getting over-browsing down here. So a lot of the new seedlings don't really even get a chance to get going. Another one is invasive earthworms that are, of course, abundant through the soil, are eating those small plants down before they really get a chance to get going. So this would be a sort of a micro area where a lot of folks would say, ooh, that's a problem. There are a lot of problems here. But looking over the hillside in a few different directions, there are other patches where there's still quite a bit of new greenery coming up down below. So this is a really nice spot in that it's got sort of a mix of everything. It's got the leaf litter, it's got the actively growing vegetation at the ground level too. There are plenty of birds around: downy woodpecker, ovenbird, goldfinch, black-capped chickadee, all singing all around me now. And if you were in the Albany, New York area, you should check out the Nature Conservancy's Lisha Kill Natural Area, because that's where I am, and this is a wonderful place to come and check out some nature.